Welcome students. In this video we will discuss chapter 3 of history, that is life in rural areas. As we know, before the arrival of British, India was ruled by kings, and with the arrival of British, the villages which were self-sufficient units, they were ruined. So before we start this chapter, we will discuss the meaning of word colony or colonialism. So colonialism is generally a term associated with the Britishers, but colonialism actually means the power control of a country by another for the purpose of economic gains. It is term generally associated with the trading companies who came to India basically as traders, but later on became the supreme political power, or you can say the supreme political authority of the country. So let's start our chapter. Before the arrival of British in India, the villages, they were self-sufficient units. What does it mean to be self-sufficient? Sufficient is enough. Means you can fulfill your needs and requirements with what you have. Then this word enough is used. I am repeating, which when you can fulfill your needs and requirements with what you have, it is enough. So villages were self-sufficient units. This means in the villages whatever needs and requirements were there, they were to be fulfilled by the villagers themselves by making use of the available resources. So villages, they were self-sufficient units as agriculture was the main occupation of people, and it was one of the major and main source of revenue for every kingdom that flourished in India during the medieval and ancient times. So in the case of British also, as the British, they came to India as traders, and in order to search for market to fulfill the raw material requirement of the industries which have been set up in England due to the coming of industrial revolution, and on the other hand to search for a market to consume their finished products. So directly or indirectly, it was agriculture that was going to be one of the main reason for the British to control and in order to maintain a regular and continuous supply of raw materials. So the villages, they were self-sufficient units. The farmers, they were landowners of the land. They were the owners of the land which they cultivated themselves, and there was a condition that they cannot be evicted from the land, or they cannot be deprived of the land which they were cultivating. This was the arrangement on that time when the British, they arrived in India. But later on, what happened? The British, when they realized that we have to control, if we have to bring about and increase our control, political control, we need to maintain a large army. For that, regular revenue should be there. So they made different policies for the control and for continuous supply of the revenue, and such arrangements are there which we are going to study in this chapter. We will be studying now. The villagers, they were basically villagers, and some most of the villagers, they were farmers. So these farmers, they used to pay a small part of their produce to the kings in the form of revenue. The Britishers, when they came, the situation changed and the revenue began to be collected by the agents of the company. The company got revenue collection rights for Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. It's Orissa earlier, but now it is Odisha. 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 So the company, why company was keen or eager to collect revenue? Because the company needed money to purchase goods, that is the raw material in India, and to export them. For running their administration and to maintain such a large army, and for funding of the to raise the funds for numerous wars, the Britishers, they were keen to take the revenue collection in their hand. And not only to take the revenue collection in their hand, they wanted to maintain a continuous and regular supply of revenue. So the colonial agrarian policies were framed from time to time, keeping this thing in mind, and it was the time when land revenue was the main source of income for company also. So timely collection of the revenue was very important. It was the time when Warren Hastings was the Governor General of India. The company tried to sell. So when Warren Hastings was the Governor General of India, the company gave the collection revenue collection rights from area by bidding. That is, the person who was giving the highest bidding rate was given the right to collect revenue from that particular area. But this system failed later on. Why it failed? Because sometimes the bidding price came to be much more than the actual revenue collected by the person. At the end of year, the persons who were the bidders, they started losing their money, and this system came to an end. Now we have the permanent settlement of 1793. See, this arrangement was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis, and it was basically related with the revenue collection in Bihar and Bengal, because these were the two primary provinces. So to fix the land revenue in Bihar and Bengal on a permanent basis, the system introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis came to be known in history as the permanent settlement. So what were the main features of this permanent settlement? Let's have a look. So the main features of the permanent settlement were: the revenue will be collected by from the area fixed for the area with no revision later. That is, the revenue to be collected from the area was fixed permanently. Permanently means there will be no scope for revision later. The person who was asked to collect the revenue from the peasants came to be known as the zamindar. That is, the local zamindars were to collect the revenue from peasants. The zamindar will collect the fixed amount as revenue on a stipulated date, within a stipulated time period, on a specific date, to the company, and the surplus revenue, if there, will be kept by the local zamindar himself. And if the zamindar fails to pay the stipulated amount by a certain date, the zamindar will lose his zamindari and it will be given to another zamindar. The land will be given to the another zamindar for collection of the revenue. This system of fixing the revenue had various impacts, some in favor of British and others against the Indians. What were the impacts of this permanent settlement? First, it gave it was advantageous to Britishers, as they started getting a fixed income on regular basis without any trouble of collecting the revenue, or you can say a hassle free income on a regular basis in a fixed amount started coming to the Britishers. Second, a new social class of zamindars which were loyal to the Britishers, or the landlords which were loyal to the Britishers, it was created because of this permanent settlement. Also, this permanent settlement was hazardous. It brought about so many sufferings for Indian peasants. What were these? The peasants, they suffered a lot because the zamindars or the landlords, they were interested in collecting the revenue and charging more and more taxes, but they didn't invested money in order to increase the productivity of the land. Hence, due to regular and continuous farming practice, the productivity of the land decreased. Whereas on the other side, in order to keep the surplus amount with them, surplus revenue collected with them, the zamindars or the landlords, they kept on increasing the revenue burden, tax burden on the peasants. So it was the peasant who suffered a lot. The peasants, they were bound or they were forced to pay the taxes, and for that the peasants, they took loans and they got trapped in the debt trap of the money lenders. Also, due to continuous and overuse, the production declined. So, these were the impacts of the permanent settlement on the Indian economy. After this, in the coming video, we will discuss about the Mahalwari and Rayatwari system and the peasantry, how it suffered, what were the main cash crops, and one case study of the indigo plantation. Thank you. That's all we have in this video. Thank you and have a nice day.